Many men have nothing to smile about. Been broke down, too proud to cry it out. Walk a mile in my boots and you know what I'm about. I took some licks and I took some hits and I found out them bones can actually break sticks. But them words are powerful as shit.
Hello there once again. Here we are in Tacoma. BD Local, let the paint dry. We're showing up where we're at Tuesdays, 1-ish. You know, sometimes we're not as timely as we want to be, but we're pushing to get it close. And this is COVID and pandemic and, you know, crazy times. So we can reproduce all this digitally at a later time and you can view it to your pleasure. But we're showing up at 1-ish. So as always, we open with a song. Just thinking very meditative this morning as I was coming in and feeling this yesterday. When you find yourself in the valley, kneel down and pray. When you find yourself on the mountain, kneel down and pray. When you find yourself in the prairies, kneel down and pray. When you find yourself in a stormy wind, kneel down and pray. When the noon sun is shining on your brow, kneel down and pray. Kneel down and pray. There we are. I hope everybody is doing well. I hope that you're finding your way through the smoke, literally, through the fog. What is it? Who knows, right? It could be both. It is both. We don't know which is more, but we're still finding our way. We're still pressing forward. This last weekend, the market down in Tacoma got canceled because the smoke was so bad, but I think we'll be back there this weekend, and then the last weekend we'll be there on the 26th. I don't know if we're doing the 27th, but for sure we're going to do the 26th, and we'll be there, and that'll be the end of kind of the summer pre-fall market, I believe. And then I'll keep you posted on anything else, but just sitting with creating a work, you know, let the paint dry. I'm an artist, creator, painter, sculptor, podcaster, singer, poet. So doing all those things, you know, during the week and helping, the work helps me, as Lawrence Weiner says, find my place under the sun. Thinking about the show that I'm preparing for right now, which is called Futures Rising, and it's going to be an exhibit that is a group show at the South Puget Sound Community College in Olympia. And I've been working through some pieces. I have some paintings that are older, and then some that are brand new, some that are not even done. I'm working on them as they're sitting in my studio right now, unfinished, as I'm working through them. And I've been thinking about the title, The Future's Rising. And when I think about that, it's, for me, I have to look to the past. I have to look to the past to understand the future in this weird way. So I think of what is the future, and we spoke about that last podcast. What is the future for Black folks? And as I think about that, I have to go to the ancestor story. I have to go to what was done. I have to go to family tree. And I'm just naming out labels and titles that I'm thinking about, words that I'm thinking about around the future is rising. The future's rising. And I've been thinking about this kind of new way of thinking. We've been forced by nature and culture and just how we have been living up until this point to think about a new future and to think about, we're forced to have new ways of doing things, and there's a level of acceptance, I think, that I'm finding myself, and I've been finding myself sitting with, this level of acceptance of where we are, of our world is already changed. We're seeing the manifestation of what was done in the past, and that dictates our future. So it's this weird space of being present in a present that is changing every day, and then looking back at the past, and then knowing that the future is going to be even more different, or is going to be different for our lifetime or the foreseeable future. So creating work around the future's rising and finding hope in the midst of so much instability has been what this season and this work has been about. And one of the pieces one of the paintings is titled The Complicated Future, and just navigating this new world that we're in, navigating this new reality of masks and the confusion and the choices that we have to make, the questions. That's just one of the things, right? Social distancing. And we've been able to exist in this kind of reality of individualism, which I appreciate. There's a part of me that appreciates that. But then there's a real part of me in my Black culture growing up, which was like a subculture within the main culture of, it was a village type thing where you weren't an individual. You're going as a community, as a group, and that's how we survived in our family unit and our church units and different communities that we created within the bigger context of things. So there's a part of me that realizes that I think it's been brought to the forefront how much we need each other in this time. And I talk about it a lot with financially, businesses. You need customers. It's energy, right? You need people, and they have to, where do they get their money from that they can give to your business? And the services that they need, how do those services stay afloat? So we're all connected, and we're not going anywhere, as we talked about before. And that is the future. That is something that we have to, I think, come to terms with as we move forward. And there's this reality of certain things in our current and our past did not work for everybody. And how do we figure that out? And so that's kind of what my work is addressing. And there's two sculptures that I'm creating, and they're titled, the working title right now is The Family Tree. And it's a bunch of wood. It was a trunk of a tree that was chopped up, and it sat in my garage for maybe a year or so. And I had this vision to chop it up even more into like chunks and then put it together in a kind of stacked on top of itself. And there's some parts of the sculpture some parts of the wood that's cut, and it's cut to me in a crude way. And then there's a side of the chunk of wood that is a natural shape, how the natural tree was formed. And seeing that in relation to the family tree and seeing it in relation to my personal family tree of Black folks that were originally from Africa, came to America and came to America by way of slavery. And so that represents a cut in the family tree, because so often they were pulled from their tribe and you were sold however you were sold to whatever plantation, and you weren't a part of, you were now with other African people that were from a different part of Africa, so you didn't even speak the same language. So there was a cutting, there was a ripping apart, and it was crude and jagged. And then it was pushed together. I can't talk this morning. It was forced together in this very crude, violent way. And they found a way to survive and a way to coexist and a way to have a way to be together and create children in this very forced way. And it built a foundation of family tree and heritage and lineage that brings us here to today. And so the pieces have like 6 to 8 pieces in them, and those all speak to different generations. And I burned some of them, and I chopped on some of them with an axe, and I painted over them with different layers of paint. And it's really a Ebenezer stone, if you will, a monument, a memorial to me looking at the future through the lens of the past. And this year I lost 2 elders in my family, both of them probably 70 plus. And as they passed, it was very surreal to see their funerals via Facebook Live, via Zoom. One of them I was able to participate in a Zoom. I was able to sing all the music through a Zoom call. They plugged me into the speaker through an aux cord. I'm sitting in my living room, my studio actually here in Olympia, and they're in California, and I'm singing all of the music as, different people speak that are there. And that was extremely surreal to experience this passing on of an elder and this passing on of a keeper of stories, a keeper of the family, a grounding. And sitting with that as I look at the futures rising and thinking about these elders that are going through this natural progression of passing on and seeing what they took with them. They were a foundation to my life, my entire life, with holding stories, they helped me understand who I was and who I am by how they related to me growing up. The way that they would call my name, the way that they would discipline me, the way that they would relate to my parents, the way that they would relate to my siblings. And all of this was a making of a person and a making of a community, a tribe, a family, and in distilling and curating a heritage and a lineage of family. And as I sort through all this with this work that I'm doing now around the title, The Future is Rising, I'm seeing this natural progression and looking at my own life and the work that I do in a different way, realizing that there are people that are going to come behind me, children, nieces, and nephews. And the baton is now in my hand to put out a foundation, a story, a framework for the people behind me to walk in, to understand. And then I think there's people that come into my life organically that are not necessarily blood, that for some reason we cross paths and there's a reason for me to do work with them and to pour into their lives. And with that, what I've learned is a lot about ego with myself, with this position of how do you pour in someone's life and what does that look like in a balanced way? And it's been a journey, and this is all a journey of discovering self, of understanding, again, my place under the sun as a creative, as I let the paint dry. And it's not a fast process. It's not this process of A, B, and C, and just do this step and that step, and then it all works out. It's an organic journey of being and existing with other people and realizing, just coming to the realization that I say so often, that I've said earlier in this podcast, of how we are connected. And there's there's no isolation. We can isolate and we can draw back, but I don't know if that's a way to exist. And for me in this, like socially and economically where I am personally, I can't do it. I need people. I need people to help me move my life forward. And so unless there's another way, I haven't seen it. And so I accept it, and I accept that, and I accept the challenge, and I accept the things that come with connecting with other people. And it's not even and having to work with other people. And it's not my comfort zone. I'd rather isolate. I think as an artist and whatever journey you become an artist, the artists love to isolate. We love to go and be by ourselves and just us in our studio, or us in our tablet, or us in our computer, creating music, creating, writing, painting, sculpture. But there is this undeniable truth of how connected we are and how much we need each other. So as a human being in this world in 2020, pandemic, Black Lives Matter, the police brutality as we sort through all of this, election year, and these are things that cause visceral reactions, these things that cause a lot of emotion and some pain and anger and rage. As we sit in this place, as I always say, my instinct is to go to that human side, is to go to the best side of my humanity, the part that thinks about sustainability. And there's a level of acceptance that we have to accept that we've done a lot of damage to our world as far as the environment. And no matter what we do at this point, we can't reverse that damage. And there's a level of acceptance where we have to accept what has been done in order to allow us the comforts that we rest in and that hold us, the comforts of technology, the comforts of buildings that are insulated from the wind, and all of those materials have been sourced. And there was a discussion I had with a fellow artist and curator that we look at those things as separate from the natural world, but they all come from the natural world. The metal chair that I'm sitting on, the cloth, the table, the plastic, it's all from the natural world. It is the natural world. And so that we've built buildings that are designed to last for 1,000 years. So there's a level of, once you build something that lasts for 1,000 years, you put into motion a environmental new reality that we're not going to live for 1,000 years to correct it. Once we do that, and we've done that over and over and over and over again. And I think there's a different narrative that I'm looking at around the environment, around global warming, and not really getting into the nitty gritty of trying to figure out if global warming is real or not real. It's very obvious that our world has changed. It's very obvious that summers are hotter, that the cycles of fire and the cycles of flood and the cycles of cold rains and just the weather is different, right? So with that, how do we move with it? How do we accept it? How do we accept the world that we have created and still find our humanity to love each other and to support one another and to maybe move in a form of humility? That's something that I've worked on and continue to work on and will always work on, is humility, and not moving in a way that, as I move through the world as an artist with this philosophy of let the paint dry, that I move with a sense of that I know, because I read this or read that, doesn't matter. I can learn. I can learn something new. I may not see everything clearly, but I think intellectual discourse is a great tool to understand these things and to look at ourselves and to get to know people and see people clearly in this time. And I think our world is forced in a way to look at this differently and look at the nuances. I keep coming up with the nuances. The word nuance keeps coming up. There's a nuances that we have to look at the world in now. We can't look at things in just this blanket statement or these broad strokes. It's much more nuanced than that. And those nuances are the determining factors. Those details are the things that are important to people. It's not this thing of, oh, well, if you just be nice to everybody and just be positive, that it all works out. Sometimes shit don't work out, no matter how positive you are. Sometimes you can plan. Sometimes it can, in life, everything can seem so right and it can go right. I had it in my life. I had things go really well for 10 years, solid. And then it all came tumbling down. Lost everything. And when I say everything, living in my car, using the restroom on the street, like real shit, like just there you are. And then you build it back up, and you build it back up through people with good hearts, good intentions, compassion, that understand how life goes, people with some gray hairs and scars, right? Like those are the kind of people that I really enjoy talking to nowadays because or for the past few years, because they understand how life really goes, that there's no right way to live this perfect cookie cutter like formula to live. There's no right way to have a career. No right timing. People say, "Oh, you want to have this at this time." Don't work like that. It doesn't. You can look around and people. There are certain people that they can become big in their 60s and 70s. I think the Blind Alabama Boys toured the Chitlin circuit for probably 30 or 40 years before they even got a Grammy. And now I got to see them many years ago, world-class singers. But they've always been world-class singers from the jump. But they didn't get the recognition until 30 or 40 years of touring around the U.S. And then they got with, I can't remember the singer's name, and he was well-known, and they did a thing together, and they got a Grammy, and then it was Grammy after Grammy after Grammy. I think everything they put out, they got a Grammy Award for. There's other people that they're 15 and they get their first hit record. This is just the music world. But life isn't this package. It isn't this perfect curated thing. It just isn't. Even the people that look like they're perfect and curated, it's a hot mess. There's parts of life that are a hot mess. And so with that, understanding in myself gives me this level of humility, level of patience, level of understanding that things take time. Life is filled with highs and lows, and it's filled with turns and twists and valleys, and it's filled with seasons where everything is consumed in fire, and then the season after that may be consumed with a flood. And then after that, you may be on solid ground. And then after that, you may get a little bit of life. And that's the journey. And that's the beauty of it, really. That's what makes you. That's what makes you a solid person. You have to be tested, and you will be tested. If you aren't tested, then you don't have that density, that's like spiritual density that you need. That spiritual roots that you need to withstand. And there's this weird thing that happens, whereas you go through a season of trouble and then you come out of that, and then the person next to you goes through that season. And when they go through that season, a lot of times they lean on you because you've gone through that season and you have some roots around that. And that's just what I've seen as the circle of life and the journey of life. And that's what causes me to stay in a place of humility and a place willing to learn and willing to help others, being available. And there's boundaries around all that too. There's and that's part of our journey, is learning when to give, learning when to sustain, learning when it's healthy to partner with people. That's all a part of the journey. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for all the listeners. I'm grateful for this platform. Thank you. And thinking about some business, kind of like technical stuff, I'll be on my website. I'll be posting, and on Facebook and Instagram, a bunch of stuff for the holidays. I'm thinking about doing holiday cards. So if you're interested in that, follow me. I'll have some stuff available. And then some kind of like gifts, things that would work price point as a good gift for the holidays. And I'll be planning some more. I think I'm going to do some online teaching. We're going to work on that. So stay tuned for that, like Zoom. I'm still working out kind of the easiest way to do it. I want to make sure that it's easy for people that are interested to sign up, and affordable and engaging. I don't want to exhaust people on a Zoom call. I want it to be engaging. And I practiced a few times during the summer and was it turned out very well. So I want to do that. So that's some stuff to come. But I think what we'll do is we'll get into a song here as we close out. And thank you so much for just those that listen to this and enjoy it and give the feedback. It's greatly appreciated. So. I woke up this morning and I didn't feel the pain. My body was whole again and the demons were slain. 'Cause somebody was praying on the praying stone again. 50 years on the praying stone. My knees are old and my back is worn. The battle is won on the praying stone, praying stone, praying stone. 50 years on the praying stone. My knees are old and my back is worn. The battle is won on the praying stone, praying stone, praying stone. Said 50 years on the praying stone. My knees are old and my back is worn. But the battle is won on the praying stone, praying stone, praying stone. Said 50 years on the praying stone, praying stone, praying stone. Said 50 years on the praying stone. My knees are old and my back is worn. The battle is won on the praying stone. 50 years on the praying stone. Said 50 years on the praying stone. My knees are old and my back is worn. The battle is won on the praying stone. Praying stone, praying stone. Said 50 years on the praying stone. My knees are old and my back is worn. The battle is won on the praying stone. Praying stone, praying stone. Said 50 years on the praying stone. My knees are old and my back is worn, but the battle is won on the praying stone, praying stone, praying stone. They shot her mother, they shot her brother, but she found a way to say, I am blessed. 50 years in the killing fields. Her family found a way to breathe. 50 years on the praying stone. 50 years on the praying stone. 50 years on the praying stone. My knees are old and my back is worn. 50 years on the praying stone. 50 years on the praying stone. 50 years on the praying stone. My knees are old and my back is worn. But the battle is won. I said the battle is won. The battle is won. On the praying stone. So go in peace. Have a wonderful week. Do good work. Follow me on all the different platforms if you choose to. Instagram, Travis Johnson Studios. My website, travisjohnsonart.squarespace.com. And then Facebook. Good luck finding me. There's a lot of Travis Johnsons there. But, if it's meant to be, we'll find each other. Have a wonderful week. Appreciate you. Let the paint dry.